In this video, we explore how we can use our speech and words in a wiser, more impactful way by drawing on 5 principles from Buddhism. These principles guide us in using our words to foster better communication, relationships, and personal growth. The essence of these teachings is that our speech has great power, both to build and to break, to heal and to hurt. Here are the 5 guiding questions you should ask yourself before speaking. Timing is crucial in communication. Even if what you have to say is true, if it is said at the wrong time, it may not be received well. Reflects a fundamental principle in effective communication. It emphasizes that timing plays a critical role in how messages are received, regardless of their truthfulness or importance. Here's a breakdown of this idea. The importance of timing in communication. Why timing matters. The core of this principle lies in the emotional state and readiness of the person receiving the message. Communication is not just about transmitting information but ensuring that the message is understood and has the desired impact. If someone is not in a mental or emotional state to receive a message, they may misinterpret it or fail to process it constructively. The emotional context. When people are upset, angry, or emotionally charged, their capacity for rational thinking can be impaired. In these moments, they may focus more on the emotion or tone of the message rather than the content itself. For example, if someone is angry and you offer feedback about their behavior, they might interpret your message as an attack rather than constructive criticism. Understanding human psychology. Research in psychology supports the idea that people under stress or in heightened emotional states are less receptive to feedback or criticism. When emotions run high, the brain's fight or flight response can be triggered, making it difficult for the individual to process information logically. In such moments, they might respond defensively or with anger, even if the feedback is intended to help them. Practical example. Constructive feedback. For example, if you're trying to address a mistake made by a colleague at work and they are visibly angry or upset, giving them feedback right away could escalate the situation. Instead of focusing on the content of your feedback, they may become fixated on defending themselves or retaliating emotionally. This not only makes it harder for them to process your feedback but also undermines your intent to improve the situation. The power of timing in relationships. This principle also applies in personal relationships. Suppose a partner comes home from a stressful day at work and is in a bad mood. If you choose this moment to bring up a sensitive topic, such as a disagreement or a concern, your words may not be received well. Instead, waiting for a time when both individuals are calm and open to discussion can lead to a more productive and meaningful conversation. Am I speaking the truth? Truthful speech is one of the cornerstones of Buddhist communication. However, the Buddha teaches us that truth must be spoken at the right time and in the right context. Sometimes, speaking the truth may require patience, and we must avoid speaking impulsively. Truth builds trust, and trust is essential for healthy relationships. Offers valuable insights into the role of truth in communication, particularly from a Buddhist perspective. Let's break it down into key components. Truth as a cornerstone. In Buddhism, truthfulness is not just a moral guideline, it's seen as a key element of right speech, Samabhaka, one of the eightfold paths that lead to enlightenment. Right speech involves speaking in a way that is truthful, helpful, and conducive to peace. Truthful speech reflects our integrity, and it establishes a foundation for clear and honest communication, which is essential for building trust in relationships. Truth and the path to liberation. In Buddhist teachings, truth is tied to liberation from suffering. When we speak the truth, we align ourselves with the reality of the world, letting go of illusions and deceit. This alignment brings clarity and peace, both to ourselves and others. Speaking truthfully, then, is not just a social virtue, but also a spiritual practice that helps in our personal growth and understanding. Truth must be spoken at the right time. The Buddha teaches that while truth is important, its impact depends greatly on when it is shared. For example, if we speak the truth in a moment of high tension or emotional distress, the other person may not be receptive to it. Instead of promoting understanding, it may lead to conflict or defensiveness. The right context matters when speaking the truth. Some truths are meant to be shared in private, while others are more appropriate in public. For example, pointing out a colleague's mistake in front of a group might not only embarrass them but also damage the relationship. On the other hand, offering constructive feedback in a private, supportive setting can make the truth easier to accept and act upon. The Buddha emphasizes wisdom in knowing how to deliver the truth in a way that is compassionate and conducive to growth, patience and discernment. Sometimes, speaking the truth requires patience. There are moments when, even though we know something is true, it's better to wait for the right moment to share it. This might involve holding off until the person is in a calmer, more receptive state, or until the circumstances are more conducive to understanding. Patience in delivering the truth shows discernment, which is an important virtue in Buddhism. It helps avoid impulsive reactions and gives space for the other person to process the information. Mindful speech and right timing. Right speech in Buddhist philosophy. Right speech, Samabhaka, is one of the Eightfold Path practices in Buddhism, which focuses on ethical and mindful communication. While it includes speaking the truth, avoiding gossip, lying, or harsh speech, it also stresses when to speak. The role of timing. It's not enough to speak the truth. The Buddha teaches that timing is critical. Words should be shared at a moment when they will be heard, understood, and appreciated, not during times of emotional turmoil, anger, or defensiveness. If a person is overwhelmed by negative emotions, such as anger or sadness, they may be closed off or unwilling to receive the message in the intended way. The power of silence. Sometimes, silence is more powerful than words, especially in moments where the other person is not yet ready to listen. In such situations, saying nothing might be a more skillful response than forcing a message upon someone who cannot hear it. Example: imagine trying to give someone constructive feedback right after they've experienced a failure. If you rush in to correct them while they're upset, they may feel attacked or defensive. However, if you wait for them to calm down and approach them later with the same message, they may be more receptive, and the feedback will be far more beneficial. Patience as a virtue. Patience, one of the key virtues in Buddhism, is not just about waiting passively but actively choosing the right moment for action. In the case of communication, it means waiting for the moment when the other person is ready to listen and understand. This form of patience isn't about being inactive but being thoughtful and mindful about how your actions, particularly your words, will affect the situation. Reflection on emotional states. Patience in speech involves reflecting on both your emotional state and the emotional state of the person you're communicating with. It requires self-awareness and empathy. Patience means understanding that people's emotional states can influence their receptivity to truth. Compassionate speech. Compassionate speech is not only about being gentle but also about recognizing the emotional conditions of others. By waiting for the right time, you show respect for the other person's feelings and emotional readiness to receive your words. Example: if a friend is mourning the loss of a loved one, They might not be able to hear advice about how to handle their grief. Compassionate timing would be waiting until they have had time to process their emotions before offering any words of wisdom or counsel. In this way, your message can offer comfort rather than unintentionally cause more distress. Speech with compassion and love. In Buddhism, speech is not just about the words themselves but also about the intentions behind them. According to Buddhist teachings, the mind, or mental intention, plays a crucial role in shaping our actions and speech. If our speech arises from loving kindness, metta, and compassion, it has the power to uplift and heal others. Buddhist ethics of speech. The Buddha taught that speech should be used to benefit others, not to cause harm. This means that our words should be carefully chosen and spoken with an intention to support the other person's growth, healing, or understanding. Constructive speech should seek to address issues in a way that encourages personal development, emotional healing, or spiritual growth. Example: if a friend is struggling with a bad habit, pointing out their behavior with judgmental or harsh words will likely only make them feel bad about themselves, pushing them further away. However, if your intention is to help them, you would offer your words with care, encouraging them to make positive changes without diminishing their self-esteem. Speech as a tool for helping others. The Buddha's teachings emphasize that our speech should always have a wholesome and beneficial purpose. This aligns with the idea of right speech, which includes speaking the truth, avoiding harsh or divisive speech, and speaking with kindness. The key is that speech should always be aimed at benefiting others, especially when offering feedback or advice, not to criticize for the sake of criticism. In many situations, people may speak to criticize or belittle others, either consciously or unconsciously. The Buddha encourages us to refrain from such speech, as it can lead to hurt, conflict, and suffering. Instead, we are advised to consider how we say things and ensure that they are truly beneficial to the other person. Intentional harm versus helpful criticism. Sometimes, correcting someone's mistake is necessary for their growth, but the intention should always be to help, not to criticize for the sake of criticizing. If your intention is to make someone feel inferior or to win an argument, this can cause harm, even if the content of your message is accurate. Example: if a colleague makes a mistake, your intention in pointing it out should be to help them improve and avoid similar mistakes in the future. Instead of criticizing them harshly, you might offer constructive feedback that empowers them to grow. By doing so, your words reflect care, rather than judgment. The importance of humility in speech. Humility and self-awareness. The intention behind speech is also linked to humility. A speaker who speaks with the intention of diminishing another person is often doing so from a place of arrogance, judgment, or ego. In contrast, speaking with the intention to help involves humility, recognizing that we are all on a journey of growth and that no one is perfect. Self-reflection and humility. Before offering feedback or advice, it is important to reflect on our own intentions and motivations. Are we trying to improve the situation? Or are we speaking out of frustration or superiority? If we approach communication with humility and a genuine desire to be helpful, our words will naturally be more beneficial and compassionate. Avoiding harmful ego-driven speech. Ego-driven speech comes from a place of pride, competition, or the need to be right. It can harm relationships and lead to misunderstanding. Right speech requires us to examine whether our speech is motivated by the desire to uplift and assist or by a need to assert dominance or superiority over others. Example, a teacher who gives constructive criticism to a student with the intention of helping them improve is demonstrating humility. The teacher's goal is to nurture the student's growth, not to highlight their failings or elevate themselves. The intention is one of service, not self-interest.